Marjane Satrapi is gone. The celebrated French-Iranian author, filmmaker, artist, and creator of the groundbreaking graphic memoir Persepolis has died at the age of 56. According to those close to her, Satrapi passed away a little more than a year after the death of her husband, Mattias Ripa, the man she once described as the love of her life. Reports from French media and members of her inner circle described her death as one caused by overwhelming sadness. The news shocked readers, artists, filmmakers, and human rights advocates around the world. For millions of people, Marjane Satrapi was not simply an author. She was a storyteller who transformed personal memories into powerful lessons about freedom, identity, courage, and survival. Her death marks the end of an extraordinary life, but her influence continues through the books she wrote, the films she created, and the ideas she championed. Long before she became one of the world's most recognizable graphic novelists, she was a young girl growing up in Iran during one of the most dramatic political transformations of the 20th century. Her childhood unfolded against the backdrop of revolution, war, social change, and uncertainty. These experiences would eventually become the foundation of the work that made her famous across the globe. Marjane Satrapi was born on November 22, 1969, in Rasht, Iran. Although she was born in Rasht, much of her childhood was spent in Tehran, the country's capital. She came from an educated and politically aware family that encouraged independent thinking. Her parents believed in freedom, education, and critical discussion. Unlike many children who grow up shielded from political conversations, Marjane was exposed to debates about society, government, justice, and history from an early age. Those discussions helped shape her worldview and encouraged her to question the world around her. As a child, Satrapi was curious, outspoken, and imaginative. She wanted to understand why societies functioned the way they did, and why people were often treated differently because of politics, religion, or gender. Her childhood coincided with the final years of Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi's rule in Iran. Then came the Iranian Revolution of 1979, a historic event that transformed every aspect of Iranian society. For many adults, the revolution represented hope for change. For children like Marjane, it represented confusion, uncertainty, and a rapidly changing world. When the revolution overthrew the Shah and brought Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini to power, everyday life began to change dramatically. New social restrictions were introduced. Expectations for women changed. Political tensions increased. The atmosphere in the country became increasingly complex. Marjane watched these changes unfold around her. She saw how ordinary families struggled to adapt. She witnessed how political decisions affected daily life. These observations would later become central themes in Persepolis. Then came another devastating event. In 1980, the Iran-Iraq War began. What started as a political conflict soon became one of the longest and deadliest wars of the 20th century. For 8 years, millions of people lived under the shadow of conflict. Bombings, fear, uncertainty, and loss became part of everyday reality. While many children elsewhere worried about school exams or weekend activities, children in wartime Iran often worried about survival. For Marjane, these years left a lasting impression. She saw how war affected families. She witnessed the emotional toll of constant uncertainty. She experienced firsthand what it meant to grow up in a country facing both internal restrictions and external threats. Yet despite these hardships, she never lost her sense of curiosity or her desire to understand the world. By the early 1980s, her parents became increasingly concerned about the future. They believed she deserved opportunities that might no longer be available under the increasingly restrictive conditions in Iran. In 1983, at just 14 years old, Marjane left Iran and moved to Vienna, Austria, to continue her education. It was one of the most difficult moments of her young life. Leaving home at 14 is challenging under any circumstances. Leaving during a period of political upheaval, uncertainty, and separation from family is even harder. Austria offered educational opportunities, but it also brought culture shock, loneliness, and the painful experience of being far away from everything familiar. Suddenly, Marjane found herself navigating a new language, a new culture, and a new way of life. Although Vienna provided freedom, it also exposed her to feelings of isolation. She missed her parents. She missed her homeland. She struggled with questions of identity that many immigrants and exiles face. Was she Iranian? Was she becoming European? Could she be both? These questions followed her throughout her life and would later become central themes in her writing. After several difficult years abroad, Satrapi returned to Iran in 1989. Returning home, however, was not as simple as she had imagined. The country had changed. She had changed. Rebuilding a sense of belonging proved challenging. Nevertheless, she continued her education and enrolled at Tehran University, where she studied visual communications. At university, her artistic talents flourished. She developed skills in illustration, design, and storytelling. More importantly, she began recognizing the power of visual art as a way to communicate complex ideas. She discovered that images could sometimes express emotions and experiences more effectively than words alone. As graduation approached, Satrapi faced another important decision. She knew she wanted to pursue a creative career. She also knew that opportunities for artists were often greater outside Iran. In 1994, she moved to France, a decision that would ultimately transform her life and career. France provided a creative environment where she could fully explore her artistic ambitions. She studied further, refined her craft, and became involved in artistic communities that encouraged experimentation and self-expression. During these years, she developed the unique storytelling style that would eventually make her internationally famous. What distinguished Marjane Satrapi from many other artists was her ability to combine deeply personal experiences with major historical events. She understood that readers connect with people before they connect with politics. Instead of presenting history through statistics and political speeches, she presented it through the eyes of ordinary individuals navigating extraordinary circumstances. This approach would eventually lead to the creation of the work that changed everything, Persepolis. Published in the early 2000s, Persepolis was unlike anything many readers had encountered before. It was a graphic memoir, combining illustrations with autobiography. At a time when graphic novels were still fighting for recognition as serious literature, Satrapi demonstrated just how powerful the medium could be. The story followed a young Iranian girl named Marji through revolution, war, exile, and self-discovery. The parallels to Satrapi's own life were unmistakable. Through simple black and white illustrations and deeply honest storytelling, she invited readers into her world. What made Persepolis so powerful was not just its historical content. It was its humanity. Readers didn't simply learn about Iran. They connected with a young girl trying to understand a complicated world. They saw her fears, hopes, mistakes, dreams, and struggles. They laughed with her. They worried for her. They grew alongside her. For many readers outside Iran, Persepolis provided a perspective they had never encountered before. It challenged stereotypes and encouraged empathy. It reminded audiences that behind political headlines are ordinary people with families, dreams, friendships, and fears. The book became an international sensation. Critics praised its honesty. Readers embraced its emotional depth. Universities taught it. Book clubs discussed it. Students discovered it. What began as a personal story evolved into a global phenomenon. And yet, this was only the beginning of Marjane Satrapi's extraordinary journey. By the time Marjane Satrapi arrived in France in 1994, she had already lived through experiences that many people never face in an entire lifetime. She had witnessed revolution, war, political upheaval, exile, cultural conflict, and the emotional challenge of building a life between two worlds. What she did not yet know was that those experiences would eventually become the foundation of one of the most influential graphic memoirs ever published. For years, Satrapi continued studying, drawing, and refining her artistic voice. She became involved with artists and writers who encouraged experimentation and personal storytelling. During this period, she discovered that her own life contained stories that people needed to hear. Not because she was famous, not because she was extraordinary, but because her experiences reflected the lives of millions of ordinary people whose voices were rarely heard in international media. At the time, much of the Western world's understanding of Iran came from news broadcasts, political debates, and images of conflict. Entire generations had grown up hearing about Iran without ever hearing from ordinary Iranians themselves. Satrapi realized that she had a unique opportunity. She could bridge that gap. Instead of writing a traditional autobiography, she chose a different path. She decided to tell her story through illustrations and simple, direct language. The result would become a cultural landmark. In 2000, the first volume of Persepolis was published. Few people could have predicted the impact it would have. The book introduced readers to Marjane, a young Iranian girl growing up during the Islamic Revolution and the Iran-Iraq War. Through her eyes, readers experienced confusion, fear, hope, rebellion, humor, and heartbreak. The story was deeply personal, but it also reflected larger historical events that had shaped an entire nation. One of the reasons Persepolis stood out was its honesty. Satrapi did not present herself as a hero. She did not pretend to have all the answers. Instead, she showed herself as a curious child trying to understand an increasingly complicated world. Readers responded immediately. They saw themselves in her struggles. They recognized the universal emotions behind her experiences. Even if they had never been to Iran, never spoken Persian, and knew little about Middle Eastern history, they understood what it felt like to search for identity, question authority, and long for freedom. The success of the first volume led to additional installments, eventually creating the complete Persepolis series. As the story expanded, readers followed Marjane from childhood into adolescence and adulthood. They witnessed her departure from Iran, her struggles in Austria, her return home, and her eventual decision to build a life in Europe. The series became a publishing phenomenon. Translated into dozens of languages, Persepolis reached readers across continents. Schools added it to their curricula. Universities analyzed its themes. Critics praised its storytelling. Readers recommended it to friends and family. What began as one woman's personal story evolved into a global conversation about identity, migration, freedom, and belonging. But perhaps the most remarkable achievement of Persepolis was its ability to humanize people who were often reduced to political stereotypes. For decades, discussions about Iran had focused on governments, conflicts, and international tensions. Satrapi shifted the focus back to people. She reminded readers that behind every headline are families trying to live their lives. Parents raising children, students pursuing education, friends sharing dreams, people hoping for a better future. This simple but powerful perspective changed the way many readers viewed Iran and its people. As Persepolis continued gaining popularity, Satrapi herself became an increasingly respected figure in international literary circles. Yet despite her growing fame, she remained committed to authenticity. She refused to simplify complex issues. She resisted becoming a spokesperson for every Iranian experience. Instead, she emphasized that she could only tell her own story. And ironically, that honesty made her voice even more powerful. The literary world soon recognized that Persepolis was doing something extraordinary. It was proving that graphic novels could address serious historical and political subjects without losing emotional depth. For many years, graphic novels had been dismissed by some critics as less important than traditional literature. Satrapi helped change that perception. Alongside other influential creators, she demonstrated that illustrations and words could work together to tell stories every bit as sophisticated and meaningful as conventional novels. As her reputation grew, opportunities began appearing beyond publishing. Filmmakers became interested. Producers saw cinematic potential. Readers imagined seeing Marjane's story brought to life on screen. Eventually, Satrapi decided to take on the challenge herself. Rather than handing her story over to someone else, she became directly involved in adapting Persepolis into a film. It was a bold decision. Writing a successful book and creating a successful film require very different skills. Many adaptations fail because they lose the spirit of the original work. Satrapi understood that risk. She knew that if the film was going to succeed, it needed to preserve the emotional honesty that had made the book resonate with readers. Working alongside filmmaker Vincent Perrinoy, she helped transform Persepolis into an animated feature film. The decision to use animation was significant. Some people initially questioned whether animation was appropriate for a story involving revolution, war, exile, and political repression.
Satrapi believed it was.
Animation allowed difficult subjects to be explored with emotional sensitivity while maintaining the visual style that readers already associated with the graphic novel. When the film premiered, audiences quickly understood why that choice had been made. The black and white visual style captured the spirit of the original work while adding new emotional dimensions. The film retained the humor, sadness, resilience, and humanity that had defined the books. Critics praised its artistic vision. Audiences connected with its storytelling. And before long, Persepolis became one of the most celebrated animated films of its era. One of the biggest moments arrived when the film was selected for the Cannes Film Festival. For any filmmaker, Cannes represents one of the highest levels of international recognition. For Satrapi, it was another milestone in an already extraordinary journey. The same girl who had once left Iran as a teenager searching for opportunity was now presenting her story on one of cinema's most prestigious stages. The film went on to win the jury prize at Cannes. The recognition introduced Satrapi to an even larger audience and confirmed her status not only as a successful author but also as a major creative force in international cinema. The success did not stop there. Persepolis received an Academy Award nomination for Best Animated Feature. For many artists, receiving an Oscar nomination represents the pinnacle of a career. For Satrapi, it represented something even more meaningful. It showed that deeply personal stories could resonate with audiences around the world. It demonstrated that cultural differences did not have to be barriers to understanding. And it proved that honesty remains one of the most powerful tools any storyteller can possess. During interviews surrounding the film, Satrapi often emphasized a simple message. She wanted audiences to recognize the humanity of people who are frequently misunderstood. She wanted viewers to look beyond stereotypes, to see individuals rather than political labels, to understand that ordinary people share many of the same hopes and fears regardless of nationality. That message became one of the defining themes of her career. As her fame continued growing, Satrapi found herself occupying a unique position. She was simultaneously an author, illustrator, filmmaker, cultural commentator, and advocate. She moved comfortably between different artistic disciplines while remaining true to the core values that had always guided her work. Freedom, honesty, curiosity, empathy. These principles appeared again and again throughout everything she created. And they would continue shaping the next chapter of her remarkable career. Because even after conquering the worlds of publishing and animation, Marjane Satrapi was only getting started. Her greatest influence would soon extend far beyond Persepolis, reaching into filmmaking, activism, human rights advocacy, and a global movement for freedom that would define the later years of her life for many artists. Creating a masterpiece can become both a blessing and a burden. The success of Persepolis was so enormous that it could have easily defined Marjane Satrapi's entire career. Many creators spend the rest of their lives trying to recreate the success of their most famous work. Others become trapped by public expectations, forever associated with a single achievement. But Marjane Satrapi had no intention of standing still. She had stories left to tell, ideas left to explore, and battles left to fight. Following the international success of Persepolis, Satrapi found herself in a position few artists ever reach. She was respected not only as an author, but also as a filmmaker, public intellectual, and cultural figure whose voice carried weight across multiple industries. The attention could have been overwhelming. Instead, she used it as an opportunity. Rather than retreating into comfort, she expanded her creative ambitions. She continued writing. She continued drawing. And perhaps most importantly, she continued challenging herself. One of the qualities that made Satrapi unique was her refusal to limit herself to a single medium. She believed stories could take many forms. Sometimes a story belonged in a graphic novel. Sometimes it belonged on a movie screen. Sometimes it belonged in a painting. What mattered most was the message. After Persepolis, she continued creating graphic works that explored relationships, memory, culture, and human nature. Among her most notable works was Embroidery's Asterisk, a book that offered intimate conversations among Iranian women discussing love, marriage, family expectations, and personal freedom. The book revealed another side of Satrapi's storytelling. While Persepolis focused heavily on political and historical events, Embroidery's highlighted everyday life. It reminded readers that behind every society are ordinary conversations, private hopes, personal frustrations, and moments of humor. Readers once again responded positively. Satrapi possessed a rare ability to discuss serious topics without losing warmth or humanity. She understood that laughter and pain often exist side by side. The same person who can tell a heartbreaking story can also tell a hilarious one, and real life contains both. Another important work followed, Chicken with Plums. Unlike Persepolis, this story was not strictly autobiographical. Instead, it explored themes of love, loss, art, and destiny through the story of a musician whose life begins to unravel after a devastating emotional disappointment. The story demonstrated Satrapi's growing confidence as a storyteller. She was no longer simply recounting personal memories. She was building complex fictional narratives inspired by broader human experiences. Eventually, Chicken with Plums would also be adapted into a feature film. By this point, Satrapi was becoming increasingly comfortable behind the camera. Filmmaking offered possibilities that books could not. Music, movement, performance, visual atmosphere. Cinema allowed her to explore emotions in entirely new ways. The transition from author to filmmaker is not always easy. Many writers struggle to adapt to the collaborative nature of filmmaking. Satrapi embraced it. She learned how actors, cinematographers, editors, and composers contribute to storytelling. She discovered new ways to communicate ideas, and she continued evolving as an artist. Over time, she directed additional projects, including The Gang of Hodas and later Radioactive, a film based on the life of legendary scientist Marie Curie. At first glance, Marie Curie might seem very different from the subjects Satrapi usually explored, yet there was a connection. Curie was a woman who challenged expectations, a woman who refused to accept limitations imposed by society, a woman whose achievements transformed history. Those themes resonated deeply with Satrapi. Throughout her career, she had consistently focused on individuals who confronted powerful systems and refused to surrender their identities. Whether she was telling stories about revolutionary Iran, artistic struggle, or scientific discovery, the underlying message remained remarkably similar. Human beings possess extraordinary resilience, and courage often appears in unexpected forms. As her filmmaking career expanded, Satrapi's public profile continued growing. But unlike many celebrities, she rarely seemed interested in fame for its own sake. She was not known for extravagant lifestyles. She was not constantly appearing in gossip magazines. She did not cultivate an image based on luxury or excess. Instead, she focused on her work. Her interviews often revolved around ideas rather than personal glamour. She spoke about freedom, art, politics, identity, human rights, and the responsibility artists have to speak honestly. That commitment became especially visible in her advocacy for women. Throughout her life, Satrapi remained deeply concerned about gender equality and women's rights. Having experienced restrictions placed on women in Iran, she understood firsthand how political systems can affect personal freedom. But she also believed that meaningful change required more than slogans. She frequently argued that feminism should be demonstrated through actions. For Satrapi, success itself became a form of activism. Every book she published, every film she directed, every achievement she earned, each one challenged assumptions about what women could accomplish. She once explained that if she could demonstrate that she was capable of doing something as well as, or even better than, a man, she could become an example for the next generation. That philosophy guided much of her work. She did not simply talk about empowerment. She embodied it. As global conversations about women's rights intensified during the 2010s and 2020s, Satrapi became an increasingly important voice. She used her platform to support activists, artists, and individuals fighting for greater freedom. Her criticism of authoritarianism was direct and unapologetic. She believed strongly that people should be free to express themselves without fear. That belief would become especially important following the death of Mahsa Amini in 2022. The death of the young Iranian woman sparked protests throughout Iran and drew international attention. The movement that emerged became known around the world through the slogan, "Woman, Life, Freedom." For Satrapi, the movement represented issues she had been discussing for decades. Women's rights, personal freedom, human dignity, political accountability. She became one of the movement's most visible international supporters. In 2023, she coordinated Women, Life, Freedom, a collaborative project involving artists, writers, and academics who documented the protests and the stories behind them. The project reflected Satrapi's long-standing belief that art can serve as both documentation and resistance. Stories matter, images matter, memory matters, and preserving those things can become an act of courage. Around the same time, her contributions to culture were being recognized at the highest levels. In 2024, she was elected to the French Academy of Fine Arts. The honor placed her among some of France's most respected cultural figures. For many artists, such recognition would represent a crowning achievement. But Satrapi remained characteristically independent. That same year, she was offered France's highest civilian distinction, the Legion of Honor. Many recipients consider the award one of the greatest achievements of their lives. Satrapi declined it. Her decision surprised many observers. But for those who understood her principles, it made perfect sense. She argued that symbolic recognition was not enough. If governments truly supported freedom and democracy, they needed to demonstrate that support through meaningful action. The decision reflected a pattern that had defined her entire life. She refused to compromise her values for prestige. She refused to remain silent when she believed something was wrong. And she consistently prioritized principle over personal recognition. That independence earned admiration from supporters around the world. Even people who disagreed with her often respected her willingness to stand by her convictions. By 2024, her influence extended far beyond literature and film. She had become a global symbol of artistic courage, an advocate for freedom, a champion of women's rights, and a voice for people whose stories might otherwise go unheard. Awards continued arriving. International recognition continued growing. Organizations praised her contributions to communication, culture, and human rights. Yet despite all the honors, Satrapi remained deeply connected to the experiences that had shaped her. The young girl, who once struggled to understand revolution, had become a woman helping others understand the world. The teenager who left Iran searching for opportunity had become an internationally respected artist. The exile, who once felt caught between cultures, had become a bridge connecting them. But behind the public success and global acclaim, another story was unfolding. A deeply personal story, one centered not on politics or art, but on love. And in the years ahead, that love would become both one of the greatest sources of happiness in Marjane Satrapi's life and one of the deepest heartbreaks she would ever experience. Behind the awards, the best-selling books, the international film premieres, and the public activism, Marjane Satrapi lived a life that was surprisingly private. Millions of people knew her through Persepolis. They knew the young girl who challenged authority, questioned tradition, and tried to make sense of a complicated world. They knew the filmmaker who stood on international stages and spoke passionately about freedom and human rights. But very few people truly knew the woman behind those achievements. Those who did often described her as intelligent, fiercely independent, humorous, deeply emotional, and intensely loyal to the people she loved. Despite her growing fame, Satrapi never appeared interested in becoming a traditional celebrity. She rarely sought attention for attention's sake. She wasn't known for extravagant public appearances or luxurious displays of wealth. While many public figures spend years carefully crafting an image, Satrapi seemed far more interested in crafting stories. Her focus remained on creativity. on ideas, on art, on truth, and eventually on the people who mattered most in her life. Among those people, none would become more important than Mattias Ripa. Ripa was a Swedish producer, actor, and creative collaborator. Over time, their professional connection evolved into something much deeper. Friends and colleagues often describe them as a remarkably close couple whose relationship was built on mutual respect, shared creativity, and genuine affection. For Satrapi, who had spent much of her life navigating cultural transitions, political struggles, and artistic challenges, finding a partner who truly understood her was incredibly meaningful. The relationship became one of the most stable and cherished parts of her life. Although she maintained privacy regarding many personal matters, it was clear that Mattias occupied a special place in her heart. Together, they shared years filled with creative projects, travel, artistic exploration, and companionship. For someone who had experienced displacement and exile at a young age, the idea of finding a true home often meant more than a physical location. Sometimes home is a person. For Satrapi, Mattias appeared to be that person. As her career continued flourishing throughout the 2010s and early 2020s, she balanced multiple roles: author, filmmaker, artist, speaker, advocate, painter, activist. Yet those who followed her closely noticed that despite her busy public life, she continued making time for quieter pursuits. One of those pursuits was painting. While much of the world associated her with graphic novels and filmmaking, painting remained an important personal passion. In 2020, she exhibited a collection of paintings that she had spent years developing alongside her other projects. For Satrapi, painting offered something different from writing or filmmaking. It offered solitude, reflection, silence, a space where she could step away from public expectations and simply create. At one point, she explained that painting played an important role in maintaining her mental well-being. This statement revealed something important about her character. Despite her confidence and accomplishments, she was not immune to life's emotional challenges. She understood the importance of protecting one's mental and emotional health. Art was not merely her profession. It was also her refuge, a place where she could process experiences that words alone could not fully capture. Throughout her life, Satrapi often spoke about resilience. But resilience should never be confused with invulnerability. Even the strongest people carry emotional burdens. Even the most accomplished individuals experience grief. Even those who inspire millions can struggle in private. As the years passed, Satrapi continued speaking out on issues she cared about deeply. She remained vocal regarding women's rights, democracy, and freedom of expression. Following the death of Mahsa Amini in 2022 and the emergence of the Women, Life, Freedom movement, Satrapi became one of the movement's most recognizable international supporters. She used her platform to amplify voices from Iran. She encouraged awareness. She urged people not to look away. For Satrapi, activism was never a temporary trend. It was a lifelong commitment. She believed that artists possess a responsibility not only to entertain, but also to challenge injustice. Her willingness to speak openly earned admiration from supporters across the globe. It also reflected a consistency that had defined her entire life. From childhood onward, she had refused to remain silent in the face of oppression. That determination never faded. But while the world focused on her public achievements, a devastating personal tragedy was approaching. In April 2025, Mattias Ripa died at the age of 53. The loss was profound. For many people, the death of a spouse is one of life's most devastating experiences. It changes everything: daily routines, future plans, personal identity, the simple expectation that someone you love will always be there. Suddenly, that certainty disappears. For Satrapi, the loss appears to have been overwhelming. In the months that followed, her grief became increasingly visible. One message she shared publicly stood out in particular. Referring to her husband, she wrote, "Because I have lost the love of my life." The sentence was short, simple, direct, yet it carried an enormous emotional weight. There was no attempt to hide the pain, no effort to soften the reality, just a heartbreaking acknowledgement of loss. Friends and those close to Satrapi later described the period following Ripa's death as extraordinarily difficult. Although she continued to be admired publicly, those who knew her understood how deeply she was suffering. Grief is often misunderstood. People sometimes assume it follows a predictable timeline. They imagine healing happens steadily, day by day. Reality is often far more complicated. Loss can linger. It can reshape a person's world. It can affect every aspect of life. And for some individuals, the emotional impact never fully disappears. Throughout 2025 and into 2026, Satrapi continued to be celebrated internationally. Her contributions to literature, cinema, and human rights remained widely recognized. Yet behind the public recognition was a woman carrying immense personal sorrow. Then, in June 2026, the world received shocking news. Marjane Satrapi had died at the age of 56. News organizations across Europe and beyond reported her passing. French President Emmanuel Macron issued a tribute honoring her contributions to culture and freedom. Artists, writers, filmmakers, and activists expressed their grief. Readers who had grown up with Persepolis shared memories of discovering her work. Across social media, thousands reflected on how her stories had shaped their understanding of Iran, identity, and resilience. As tributes poured in, another detail captured public attention. Individuals close to Satrapi stated that she had died of sadness a little more than a year after losing her husband. The phrase resonated deeply. It reflected the profound emotional impact that grief can have on a person. Public reports did not provide a detailed medical explanation, but those closest to her emphasized the connection between her devastating loss and her final chapter. For many people reading the news, the story felt especially tragic. Satrapi had survived revolution, war, exile, political turmoil, cultural conflict, professional challenges. Yet the loss of the person she loved most may have become the hardest burden of all. Her passing sparked tributes from around the world. President Macron described her as a major cultural figure whose work carried a universal message. The French Academy of Fine Arts mourned the loss of a remarkable artist and educator. Human rights advocates praised her courage. Women's rights organizations celebrated her contributions. Readers revisited Persepolis. Film lovers rewatched her movies. Artists reflected on her influence. And people who had never met her personally felt the loss of someone whose work had touched their lives. What made those tributes remarkable was their diversity. Some remembered her as a writer. Others remembered her as a filmmaker. Some admired her activism. Others admired her honesty. But nearly everyone agreed on one thing. Marjane Satrapi possessed an extraordinary ability to connect with people. Through words, through images, through stories, through truth. Even after her death, that connection remains. Because the most powerful artists do not disappear when they leave this world. Their work continues speaking. Their ideas continue inspiring. Their stories continue reaching new audiences. And in Satrapi's case, those stories are likely to endure for generations. The little girl who grew up during revolution. The teenager who left home searching for a future. The artist who transformed memory into literature. The filmmaker who transformed literature into cinema. The activist who transformed personal experience into a global conversation. All of those versions of Marjane Satrapi now belong to history. Yet her influence remains very much alive. And that influence is what truly defines her legacy. When people look back at the life of Marjane Satrapi decades from now, they will undoubtedly remember Persepolis. It is the work most closely associated with her name, the book that introduced millions of readers to her story, and the project that transformed her from an artist with a unique voice into an international cultural icon. But reducing Marjane Satrapi's legacy to a single book would overlook the true scope of what she accomplished. Her life was never about one project. It was about a mission to tell stories honestly, a mission to challenge stereotypes, a mission to remind people that behind every political conflict, every headline, and every international crisis are human beings with dreams, fears, families, and hopes. That mission shaped everything she created. Throughout her career, Satrapi consistently rejected simplistic narratives. She understood that the world is rarely divided into heroes and villains. People are complicated, societies are complicated, history is complicated, and yet she possessed a remarkable ability to explain those complexities in ways that ordinary people could understand. That skill made her work accessible to readers of all ages and backgrounds. A teenager could read Persepolis and connect with Marjie's struggles. A historian could appreciate its political context. An immigrant could relate to its themes of identity and belonging. A parent could understand its reflections on family and sacrifice. Very few creators manage to speak to so many different audiences at once. Satrapi did it naturally. One of the most impressive aspects of her success was the way she elevated the graphic novel medium itself. Today, graphic memoirs and graphic novels are widely respected forms of literature. They are taught in schools, discussed in universities, and reviewed alongside traditional books. But when Satrapi began her career, that level of recognition was far from guaranteed. Many people still viewed comics and illustrated stories as entertainment rather than serious art. Persepolis helped change that perception. By combining visual storytelling with historical insight and emotional depth, Satrapi demonstrated that graphic literature could tackle subjects as important as revolution, war, exile, identity, and freedom. Her influence can be seen in the work of countless writers and artists who followed. Many younger creators have cited her as an inspiration. Many readers discovered the power of graphic storytelling through her work. And many people who never imagined reading a graphic memoir found themselves captivated by her story. In that sense, her impact extended far beyond her own books. She helped expand the possibilities of an entire artistic medium. The same can be said of her contributions to film. The adaptation of Persepolis proved that animation could be used to tell mature, emotionally sophisticated stories about real-world events. The film's success challenged assumptions about what animated cinema could achieve. For audiences accustomed to viewing animation primarily as children's entertainment, Persepolis offered something different. It demonstrated that animation could explore politics, memory, trauma, and identity with extraordinary effectiveness. The film's recognition at Cannes and its Academy Award nomination confirmed what many critics already knew. Marjane Satrapi was not simply adapting a book. She was helping reshape the artistic conversation around storytelling itself. Yet perhaps her most enduring legacy lies not in literature or cinema, but in the values she represented. Throughout her life, Satrapi remained committed to freedom of expression. She defended the right of individuals to speak openly. She supported women fighting for equality. She challenged authoritarianism, and she consistently advocated for human dignity. Importantly, she did so without losing her sense of humanity. Many activists become known solely for their political positions. Many artists become known solely for their work. Satrapi managed to combine both worlds. She was passionate without becoming rigid, convicted without becoming dogmatic, principled without losing compassion. That balance earned her respect even among people who did not always share her views. Because regardless of politics, few could question her sincerity.
She believed what she said.
And she lived according to those beliefs. That authenticity became one of her defining characteristics. It was visible when she spoke about Iran. It was visible when she discussed feminism. It was visible when she advocated for artists and students. And it was visible when she declined prestigious honors because she felt governments needed to do more than simply offer symbolic recognition. For Satrapi, principles mattered, actions mattered, integrity mattered. Those qualities helped transform her from a successful artist into a respected moral voice. As discussions about her life continue, many people naturally wonder about her financial success. While exact figures vary, estimates over the years suggested that Satrapi accumulated a comfortable level of financial security through her books, film projects, speaking engagements, artistic work, and international recognition. However, wealth was never the defining feature of her story. Unlike many public figures, she was not associated with extravagant lifestyles or luxury-focused publicity. Her public image revolved around ideas rather than possessions, creativity rather than consumption, purpose rather than status. That does not mean she lived without comfort. years of successful work undoubtedly provided opportunities that many artists never receive. But when people discuss Marjane Satrapi today, they rarely talk about money. They talk about impact. And impact is ultimately the measure that matters most. Because what remains after a person is gone is not the size of a bank account. It is the difference they made in the lives of others. By that standard, Satrapi's influence was enormous. She helped readers understand Iran from a human perspective. She helped immigrants feel seen. She helped women feel empowered. She helped artists believe that personal stories could have universal significance. And she helped countless people recognize that cultural understanding begins with empathy. That influence continues today. Every year, new readers discover Persepolis for the first time. Students encounter her work in classrooms. Filmmakers study her storytelling techniques. Activists draw inspiration from her courage. Artists admire her honesty. And people searching for their own identities find comfort in her experiences. That ongoing relevance is perhaps the clearest sign of a lasting legacy. Great works survive because they continue speaking to new generations. Persepolis continues speaking. Her films continue speaking. Her ideas continue speaking. And through them, Marjane Satrapi continues speaking as well. In the final years of her life, she experienced profound sorrow following the death of her husband, Mattias Ripa. Those close to her described that loss as devastating. When news emerged that she had died little more than a year later, many people found the story heartbreaking. After all, Satrapi had survived so many challenges throughout her life. Revolution, war, exile, political conflict, professional obstacles. Yet the pain of losing the person she loved most may have become one of the greatest challenges she ever faced. There is something deeply human about that reality. For all her accomplishments, awards, and international recognition, she remained a person capable of immense love. And with great love often comes great loss. Perhaps that is one reason her story resonates so strongly. It reminds us that extraordinary people experience the same emotions as everyone else. They celebrate, they struggle, they hope, they grieve, and they search for meaning. Marjane Satrapi spent much of her life helping others find meaning through stories. Now her own story becomes part of history. A history that stretches from the streets of Tehran to the bookstores of Europe, from international film festivals to university classrooms, from political protests to personal reflections shared between friends. Her journey was not always easy. It was not always happy, but it was undeniably remarkable. She transformed personal experience into global understanding. She transformed memory into art. And she transformed art into a force capable of changing perspectives around the world. As we remember Marjane Satrapi today, perhaps the most fitting tribute is to recognize the lesson that runs through nearly all of her work. People are more than stereotypes, more than politics, more than headlines. Every person carries a story. Every life contains complexity. And understanding begins when we take the time to listen. Marjane Satrapi dedicated her life to telling stories that encouraged people to listen. Because of that, her voice will not disappear. Her books will continue to be read. Her films will continue to be watched. Her ideas will continue to inspire. And her legacy will continue to grow. Marjane Satrapi may have left this world at the age of 56, but the stories she shared, the courage she demonstrated, and the lives she touched ensure that she will never truly be forgotten. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the life, career, struggles, triumphs, and legacy of Marjane Satrapi. And sometimes, the greatest measure of a life is not how long it lasted, but how deeply it changed the world around it. Marjane Satrapi changed that world through art, through courage, and through truth. And that is a legacy that will endure for generations to come.